This is my first spring on the homestead and I'm trying to start my very own garden. This is the spot and this is what it looked like last year. There was no vegetable garden area anymore on this property, so I had to start from scratch. I had two options, either to start digging or try the no-dig method. Well, I chose the latter because this year, even though I'm itching to grow something in my own garden, I do need to focus mostly on renovating the house. So I'm starting with something small here and hoping to expand the garden further in the next years. I found a few planter boxes on sale in winter and I thought these would be good for my starter garden. I must admit I'm not a big fan of planter boxes, but here I am assembling them. Even though I have experience with growing things in the garden from the childhood already, I haven't really grown anything in the planter boxes before, and I also haven't started a garden without digging. So this will be a new experience and an experiment for me. I also could have built the boxes myself, but as I'm trying to prioritize other works this year, I went for the store-bought ones. I chose to start my garden in the area that seemed to have the most fertile soil. There were nettles growing there last year and I think that's a good indicator of fertile soil. I have different types of soil through this property and this here seemed best fit for gardening. And also this area is well exposed to the sun. The only downside is that it's quite far from the pond and if I need to carry water to water my plants, this is a bit inconvenient. I'm going to use mostly store-bought soil in the planter boxes, but I'm going to mix in a little bit of the local soil that I have here because I need the soil to hold on to a little bit of water and the store-bought soil is very dry. I try to even out the pile of cut grass that we had left there last year and then start placing the boxes. I got a total of 6 boxes. Here I'm placing 5 of them and later I added the 6th one as well. I know that people use cardboard as the first layer to prevent the weeds from coming through. I want to use materials that I have at hand here on the property and use a more natural approach and let's see how it works. Probably weeds will come through, but I want to wait and see. First I'm adding branches that I cut off from apple trees earlier. I'm only adding quite thin branches, but a rather good amount, as you can see. For the next layer, I'm collecting some oak leaves from my yard, and I'm hoping that if I lay a thick enough layer, then the weeds won't come through as much from underneath. Eventually the leaves of course will decompose and feed the soil, but I hope at first they will serve as the barrier for the weeds. and then I'm adding the store-bought soil on top of the leaves. The sounds that you'll now hear in the background are the common cranes that have just arrived. I'm going to make one longer garden bed directly on the soil where I'm going to grow some potatoes. And now I'm collecting some leaves for that as well. Also, I have been joking that this bed sheet that I found inside the house is like the best tool that I am using all the time. This is so much easier to carry lighter things with than with wheelbarrow, because the ground is just so uneven here. Last autumn I placed a dark piece of plastic on the ground to start suppressing the weeds, and now I'm going to remove the plastic and create the longer garden bed that I wanted to have for growing potatoes. It was so windy that day that it felt like the leaves are just going to blow away. It could have used a bit more leaves, but this is all that I managed to gather. Now this part may seem a little funny. There are a lot of molehills on the property, and I thought that perhaps I could use this soil for creating the garden bed that I wanted. And then I repeated this a lot more times. Until it looked like this. As I mentioned earlier, I also decided to mix in some of the local soil with the store-bought soil in these planter boxes. The store-bought soil alone would need a lot of watering, but the local soil is heavier and retains moisture a lot more. I'm planning to grow mostly herbs and greens this year, and the ones that I can sow this early in the spring in this climate are spinach, parsley, dill, also some radishes. Here I'm going for spinach and parsley. This spring has been quite windy, and yes, I did pick up that package that flew away. I wanted to use the apple branches that I had cut off for making mulch to use around the planter boxes and around the garden bed that I had made. So here I am clipping these branches a bit smaller so that I could fit them into the chipper, because apparently the chipper doesn't want the branches to branch. My brother and I both needed to turn some branches into mulch, so we decided to rent a chipper together. So here he is helping me, and later I was helping him on his homestead. Even though I had cut the branches into smaller pieces, it still seemed that it's better to make them even smaller, so it would be easier to feed them to this chipper. I got about 7 or 8 full wheelbarrows of mulch, and here I am spreading it out between the boxes and around the other garden bed that I had made. I could have used a bit more mulch. I think a thicker layer would have been better. in the end, I'm happy how it turned out, and I can't wait to have my first herbs and greens from here. I will definitely share with you how it all looks like once my herbs and greens are growing in there. But for now, this is done, and I am off to new projects. I hope to see you next time.